Okay, so we've written a test to validate all of the possible incorrect requests, in a sense that obviously whether the field file is empty, whether it's of anything different than the file type, and whether it's got different MIME extension, MIME type than CSV or TXT. So now the next test that we are going to write, if I just go back to our mailing list test, is going to be actually checking that we can upload, filter, and import the records. So public function uploads and correctly filters records, filters and imports records perhaps, and imports records. And again, that's a test. And we're going to start again with the same thing, this call, and we are going to be using post request type. We are posting to the root, and then to arrays, no cookies and no parameters and no cookies. And the last one is going to be the file we want to send. This time this upload file, and this time the name of the file is going to be mailing list.csv, which is one of these files that we looked at in one of the first videos. Let's quickly have a look at this file. So this is the second one, and we have the first one. So what do we have here? We have 3 valid email addresses, apart from obviously this one, which will be filtered. We will remove these back slashes and forward slash and so on, and it's going to validate as email eventually. But this is obviously the same email as this one, so we only should have 2 emails imported after the filter has been applied. So if we go back to the editor, so if I'm submitting the correct file with the CSV extension, then what I expect is to get the status code of 200, which is everything is fine. So we're going to start with this assert response. Okay, that's the method that checks whether we get 200 response, and after this I should also see text on the page saying import completed, and then we also should see text saying you have imported 2 records, because only 2 should be imported. Then this we also should see text saying 2 invalid email addresses. Let's just quickly have a look at have a look at our spreadsheet again. This one and this one is invalid. If we go back, semicolon here, then we should also see the text saying 1 duplicate record, and these duplicates are referring to the records within this CSV file, which is this Jessie12. So these are duplicates. So one of them would be ignored. And then the last one, C text, we should see 0 already existing records. Because we are starting with the fresh database, obviously we don't have any records in a database yet. And obviously we don't even have table structure yet. So that's definitely going to fail. But let's just continue with the assertions. So this, we also asserting that we should have assert count should be 2 when we run mailing list, again model we don't have yet, all method. So that's going to definitely fail. We also are expecting to see these records in a database. So this C in database, and database name is mailing list. We've created database, but we don't have any tables. And within this database, we should see record with the name John Doe, and email should be John lowercase Doe.com, because we're going to be lowering this uppercase letters as well with our filter. If I go back to our CSV, John Doe email, John Doe full name, and then we also should have Jesse Doe with this Jessie12@Doe.com. So if we go back, I'm going to duplicate this entire assertion here. So C in database, this time it's going to be Jessie Doe with Jessie12 do.com, and then we should not see in database this don't see in database mailing list. We shouldn't see record with the name of Mark Spencer. If we go back to our CSV, Mark Spencer has invalid email address. Same for Greg Monty. So if we just go back and if we duplicate this last assertion here and change the name, and then if we duplicate this again, we also shouldn't see record if we just go back with the name Brian Smith and the same name as Jesse. So Brian Smith and email jesse12@dole.com. So we shouldn't see this record. So that's the first call that we're making. So first of all, we're making the call with the correct file. It's got some records. We should receive status 200 in the response because everything should go okay. Now we should see import completed on the page within the view that's going to be displayed after the import and filtration. Then we should see also the message saying that you have imported 2 records, 2 invalid email addresses, 1 duplicate record, 0 already existing records. And then when we check the database, we check how many records we have associated with this mailing list model, and that should return 2. And then we should see these 2 records in the database and not see these other 3. So that's what we have for this test. Let's quickly run it. And not surprisingly, test fails, telling us that failed asserting that the page contains the text import completed. So let's quickly fix this. Back to our editor. I'm going to open the file browser. If we can just close some of these files here. There's validation as well. Index blade, and we can close this one as well because that's completed. If we go back to our resources, views, mailing list, and open our result.blade.php, and here we're going to start with the div class wrapper. And inside of this wrapper, we are going to start with h1 saying import completed. This is what we're expecting in our test, but it's got to have a capital letter here. Import completed. We now save it and run the test again. That should give us another error here. So we've got failed asserting that the page contains the text. You have imported 2 records. Please check the content above. Obviously, we don't have it, and we're not going to have it for a while yet because first of all we need to create this model together with the migration. So open the terminal. We're going to start with PHP artisan make model and then name of the model, which is the mailing list, migration. Hit return, and that creates the model together with the migration. Okay, Command K to clear the screen. If we go back, open the database directory, migrations, and I'm going to remove this users and password because we're not using authentication here. So we only have this create mailing list table, which we've just created together with. If we go open up mailing list model, we're going to work with this model in just a moment, but let's quickly sort out this migration. And within this migration, I'm going to remove timestamps because I don't need them. If you want to keep them, it's up to you. And basically adds created at and updated at fields. I don't need them for my import, so I just remove it. Then table string, which is going to be the column name. And by default, I'm going to set it to nullable because not all records might have a name associated with it. There may be just a list of email addresses. Table, string again, email, and this one needs to be unique. And that's our migration completed. So if we save and close the file, now mailing list model. Now mailing list model, first of all, I know you don't have to, but I like to strictly declare what table is this model associated with. So I'm going to go for protected table equals mailing underscore list. Let's add some dog block string, and then we are going to set protected fillable so that we can add record using create and then update it as well by just passing the array. I want to be to allow fillable name and email address. So email field, let's add dogs. And the last thing, because I'm not using timestamps, public timestamps I need to set to false. And that's everything for our mailing list model. Now, from within the test, let's import this mailing list now because we have it available. So if we scroll up, you can see that's now been added here. Going back down here, obviously nothing has changed yet because we haven't actually added any records. If we now run the test, you'll see that we get exactly the same thing as before, PHP unit. We still don't get this, you have imported 2 records. Even though we've sent everything, we've got a model ready, we have our migration ready as well. So the table will be created before the test is run. So if there were any records to be added, they would have a table available. But obviously our controller doesn't do anything yet. It only passes through, injects the instance of this upload mailing list request, but it doesn't do anything with this request. It just returns this result view back to the user. So obviously we don't get, nothing is being really processed. So if we go back to our controller, within the store method, we could put all the logic for actually moving the file, the uploaded file, to the designated directory down here actually within this store method. But what I'm thinking of doing is go to this upload mailing list request and do it from there. So what I'm going to do is go to HTTP request and open this upload mailing list request, and I'm going to create a new method here which we call move file. So public function move file. So this method will return a string which is going to be a full absolute path to the uploaded file. So move file to the import directory. Okay, so here what we're going to do is first get the instance of the uploaded file. So file variable this file, and the name of the input is file as well. And then we're gonna generate some name equals string random 8 characters, let's say, and then concatenate it with .csv extension, and then file store as, and we are going to store it as within the directory import, and then with the name which we've just generated. And then we are going to return storage path, and then up import / and then concatenate it with the file name. So there we go. So this is the full absolute, this is going to give us the full absolute path to this file which we've just stored, and it will be stored if we go to our storage directory up, and here because we haven't created it, it will be generated automatically, this import directory, and then the name of the file that we've just generated. Okay, so what's going to happen now? Before we do anything, I want to show you actually how this whole upload is going to work. If we go to config, and then we're going to go to file system, the default is local, and if we have a look at the disk options, the local uses the driver local, which means it's going to be on the same server as the running script. Then we have the root, and that will take us to storage path, which is this storage directory, and then directory up. So this is where it's going to be uploaded. So when we are calling this, if we just go back to this request, store as, that will store it within this storage up, and then within the import directory with the name we've generated. And then obviously we return the full path, so that this method later on can be associated with the variable here within the store method, and we can obviously play with this file whichever way we want. So from within the store method, we are going to start with a file variable, and we're going to use this request that's been injected here, and then call this move file method, which is when the file will be copied from the temporary uploaded location to this storage up and then import directory. So now that we've got a file, what we're going to do next is create a collection equals new collection. You can also use collect helper function like collect, but I prefer to use class instantiation where possible. So here we are going to use this Excel package. This is going to be a facade that we're going to use here, and then load. We're going to load this file which we've just copied, then get, which will give us the entire content as a collection actually, because it's going to return a collection as well, and then to array. We want this as an array because we want to create a new collection, but this Illuminate support collection, not the Excel one, because it generates its own type of the collection. Okay, now let's import this one. It is a fast sound, so it's not going to show here. So just use Excel. There we go. So that's now important. Now we have a collection of all these records that were within this uploaded file. We have it as a collection, Illuminate collection. So the next thing we need to do is to finally filter these records to make sure we have only the correct ones, the ones that actually represent the valid email address without any duplicates. And after that, we can add them to the database. So let's work on this in the following video.